Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a truly groundbreaking book, Dr. Eric Berne's Games People Play. It's one of those classics that, once you read it, completely changes how you see the world and everyone in it. Now, this book came out way back in 1964, but honestly, it feels like it could have been written yesterday. It gives us this revolutionary way of looking at all our daily interactions, from those little tiffs with our partners to the weird power dynamics at work. So, let's just get right to it. You know that feeling, right? That sense of déjà vu in a conversation? Well, Berne argued that these things aren't just random, frustrating moments. He said they're actually highly structured games that we're all playing, and most of the time we don't even know it.
But wait a minute, what does he even mean by a game? Because I'll tell you right now, it has nothing to do with fun or winning. In fact, it's usually the complete opposite.
Okay, so here's the breakdown. A game isn't just one comment. It's a whole sequence of moves that keeps repeating. And here's the most important part. It's fundamentally dishonest. There's what seems to be happening on the surface, which looks totally fine. But underneath, there's a secret psychological reason we're playing, and it's all leading to a predictable and often pretty negative emotional payoff. Let's make this real. Berne cataloged dozens of these games, but here's one of the most common ones. He gave it the perfectly blunt title, If It Weren't For You. I bet this one's gonna sound familiar. So, in Berne's classic example, a woman complains all the time that her husband is just so controlling he won't let her take dance classes. But then he finally gives in. He says, "Fine, go ahead, take the classes." So she signs up, but discovers she's absolutely terrified of dancing and has to quit. See what happened? The game was never really about her husband holding her back. His restriction was actually a secret service. It protected her from having to face her own fear, and it gave her a convenient person to blame for it. So, the big question is, why do we play these complicated, often painful games? Well, to understand that, we need to meet the players, and it turns out, the players are inside all of us. Berne's huge insight was that our personality isn't just one single thing. Instead, he said we're all made up of 3 distinct ego states, and we're constantly shifting between them in every conversation we have. Now, what's so critical to get here is that none of these states are good or bad. You need all 3. The parent is your internal library of rules and shoulds. The adult is your rational computer, just processing data. And the child, well, that's where all the fun, creativity, and feelings live. A healthy person can switch between them easily. The problems start, and the games begin, when the wrong ego state grabs the steering wheel. You know, like when your inner child decides to have a meltdown in a professional meeting. Okay, so if we have these 3 players inside us, how do they talk to the 3 players inside everyone else? They do it through what Berne called transactions. The best way to think of this is like a game of tennis. One person serves the ball, that's the stimulus, and the other person hits it back, that's the response. When everything is going well, it's just a nice smooth rally back and forth. And you can see exactly what that looks like right here. On the left, that's a complementary transaction. The response is what you expect, so the lines of communication are parallel. It just flows. But look at the one on the right. That's a crossed transaction. The response comes from a totally unexpected place, the lines cross, and bam, communication breaks down. That is the exact moment a conversation turns into a fight. You've definitely experienced this. You ask a simple, factual question, and you get this huge emotional explosion back that seems to come from nowhere. That's a classic crossed transaction. You sent out a simple request for information, adult to adult, but the other person responds from their defensive child, talking to you like you're their critical parent. All of a sudden, the conversation about cufflinks is totally over, and a new, much more difficult one has just started. A single crossed transaction is just an argument, but a pattern of them, that's the beginning of a game. So if games lead to all these crossed wires and bad feelings, why on earth do we keep playing them? Well, Berne says it comes down to a fundamental human hunger, one that's just as real as our need for food. You know, there are studies that show infants who aren't held or touched can literally fail to thrive. As we grow up, that raw need for physical contact turns into a psychological need for recognition. We are starving without it. And Berne had a simple, perfect word for any unit of recognition. He called them strokes. A stroke can be a hello, a nod, a compliment, but it can also be a criticism. And here's the really crucial part. Getting a negative stroke, like an insult, is unpleasant, for sure, but it's still better than getting no strokes at all. For our minds, any kind of recognition is better than being totally ignored. So we spend our lives, mostly unconsciously,
trying to organize our time to get these strokes. Rituals and small talk give us a few low-intensity strokes, but games are a predictable, even if they're dysfunctional, way to get a lot of very intense strokes. They fill the void of boredom, they give our lives structure, and they deliver that powerful emotional jolt that satisfies our deep-seated hunger to be seen.
So what do we do with all of this? What's the takeaway? Well, the goal is not to become an amateur psychologist, going around diagnosing all your friends and family. The real power is in turning that insight inward.
Really, Berna's work is just a powerful tool for self-awareness. The moment you can recognize the role you're playing, or see the hidden motive behind your words, or that negative payoff you always seem to end up with, that's the moment your rational adult can step in and choose to do something totally different.
He believed that by understanding our games, we can actually move beyond them. The ultimate goal is something he called autonomy. It's about living with real awareness, getting back our spontaneity so we can express our true feelings, and building our ability to have true intimacy, that rare, amazing, game-free connection with another person.
And that really is the most powerful idea in this whole book. Once you can see the hidden script of a game, you're not a puppet anymore. You actually have a choice. You can decide to walk off the stage and find a more honest, more authentic way to connect with the people in your life.